I'm saying euro.
You will start first.
4.74. 76'e çıktı. Emeklerden kasımda 74.
The important thing, you have to be between these two areas, because if you go there, nobody will see you. 3 months ago, I was doing lots of seminars, and my wife one day asked, "Where are you every night?" And between 7 and 9, and I said, "I am doing seminars." And that day, I was here. I said, "Please go to YouTube, open the YouTube cover. This place is official account. And please watch me." And that night I went home. She said, "You are lying me," because I was there. My voice is coming, but I was not. Ses var, görüntü yok. Evet, hoş geldiniz. 2 Türkçe konuşayım, ondan sonra İngilizce deneyim. Misafirlerimiz ayıp olmasın. Biz her ay bu etkinlikleri yapıyoruz. Zaten bilenler var, gelenler var, gelmeyenler de var. Sizler kaç böyle yeni yüzler görüyorum. Every month we are doing these events about marketing, about e-commerce, about career at digital, different things. Most about digital. My name is Murat Erdor. It has been a long time since I didn't do a presentation in English, so I'm feeling a little bit different. Tonight we are going to talk about growth hacking, and what was your topic? I always forget. Startups. Why it's important
to be representative.
Okay, you will talk about that. Thanks for coming. And before we start, you know, in June we have a gamification seminar in Bahçeşehir University. Maybe you saw this one everywhere. And they are giving a coupon. If you go to gamefatturkey.com, and when you buy this coupon, if you write tezgahçılar, you pay only 19 lira. And this is a nice one, and you know everybody is talking about gamification in business. You are asking why we gave that coupons. At the end of the seminar, we always give free books. This month I bought storytelling. It is very popular nowadays. People are talking about how can we add stories in our presentations in our business life.
It's a very new book, I know.
Okay, yeah, you know, and it is a bestseller. Maybe you saw in Indiana, in Ramsey, and whatever. Next week we are going to be in Workington, Levent Workington. We have career talks. Yemek Sepeti HR Director will be with us, Ceren, and Adidas Senior Marketing Manager Birim, Mrs. Birim will be with us. Welcome. So we were talking. Who we were talking with you? Me, consultancy, whatever. Okay. I founded this company 1 year ago, these days, and my name is Murat Erdor, and my company is Murat Erdor Danışmanlık Limited Şirketi, like Kamil Koç Tourism. One day we were having a meeting with a good company, and I was talking about artificial intelligence, Industry 4, and this nice things. And a lady asked, "Mr. Murat," I mean, she was impressed. The things not from me, but the things I thought. She asked, "What's your company name?" And I said, "Murat Erdor Danışmanlık Limited." And she looked like this. What's that? I mean, very crow. How do you say in English? I don't know. Have you heard of crow?
Yes.
No. And that day, okay, I have to, because I mean the way that she looked, and everything went to cloud, went to AI and Industry 4, and I say, okay, Turkish people love English very much. Danışmanlık means consultancy. Okay, take it. Murat, take M. Erdor, take E. Me is nice. Me consultancy. Now I go to meetings and they are asking which company. Me consultancy. Oh, amazing! I mean, it's the same. Just the impression change. and you know, in the business life and also social life, the impression is very important. So whatever. And Enes, you all started your Udemy courses, new courses about AdWords. Okay. Also, we will add 3 extra coupons. Enes Usta is a nice guy. I told you at the beginning. It has been a long time I didn't speak. He is giving a
AdWords in Instagram,
Facebook, Instagram, and AdWords trainings, educational packages on Udemy. And now it has been 1 week since he launched the Google AdWords training. So he will give 3. He will give 3 courses, and it was 900 lira. You said? 900 lira. 900 lira. So it is yes. 3 months ago it was 300 dollar. Now it is you know, it is very changing very rapidly. We are always talking about dollar and euro. I don't know whether you
very much
Yes,
so.
all the time. Every
Hot
day.
topic at office.
So I'm thinking if I forget anything. No. So thanks for coming. And you spell your name Jörn.
Yes.
Okay. Jörn and Matilda working at WordApp. You remember we invited Jem, the WordApp's CEO, and now Volkan was here, and we were talking about content marketing, SEO, and other things. One day, Volkan invited me to their offices in Beyoğlu, and WordApp is a half Swedish, half Turkish company. And I entered the office, and I thought that, I mean, people are Turkish, and it's Beyoğlu, and half of the people are Swedish. I saw Matilda, she doesn't look like a Turkish. And I said, are you coming here for business? She said, I'm living here, and he is living here. How many people are Swedish? Lots of people can have.
I'm Dutch, Swedish, we have an American, we have Uzbekistan, we have quite a bit.
It's a kind of international company, and yeah, and they are dealing with. I mean, they will tell, but you know, content marketing platform, and they are giving, they are producing content to lots of companies, mostly the e-gaming industry, but now they are operating in Turkey as well. And we started with some good brands like LC, like Enombier, and more will come soon, hopefully. And today it's also my first time, because I made maybe more than 100 events, but it's the first time I invited 2 foreign people. So sorry for being maybe I missed some issues.
No, very good, very good.
So I mean, please welcome Jörn with a clap.
Great, thanks for having me, guys. I'll be talking about growth hacking for early-stage startups. My name is Jörn Elfrink, I'm Dutch. I'm a co-founder of WordApp, which we started about 3 years ago. WordApp is a free content processing platform for online businesses and freelancers. Last year we did a bit over €1 million in revenue. We're 100% self-funded, so we're doing pretty okay, I think. Today I'm not talking too much about WordApp. If you want to check me out, you can check me on LinkedIn about my background and all those things, or if you want to contact me, that's always good. So today I'll be talking about growth hacking. And growth hacking is a very, very interesting topic to me. It's something I'm truly passionate about, and something that I want to share with more and more people. This picture, sent from my iPhone, probably pretty known for people, but it's actually not something that Apple came up with, or something that Unbounce or any of the tools that you see and use for free where you see this marketing. This is not something they came up with. The story actually goes way, way back to 1996, when these 2 guys were working at Apple, and they wanted to launch their own company. They wanted to call it JavaSoft, but they didn't want their boss to know about it. So they came up with this web-based email system, and this is how Hotmail was born. And Hotmail wasn't doing terribly good at the beginning. They actually got in $300,000 of investment, and their strategy for growing was to get billboard ads and radio advertisements, which was very normal at the time, but didn't really work. So when they were having a meeting with their investor, the investor said, you know what, you guys should try something new. and I have this idea, let's try it. One, it doesn't take any time to implement, and two, it doesn't really cost any money. So of course the guys were interested, they wanted to try something, and that's when I started adding, PS I love you, get your free email at hotmail.com at the footer of every email that they had. And after that, things really started taking off. They were averaging 3,000 new users a day, and within 6 months, they actually reached 1 million active users on Hotmail. 6 weeks later, they already reached 2 million users. There is one case where one of the co-founders sent an email to his friend in India, one single email, and within a month from then, 300,000 new users in India started using Hotmail. They did no advertising, nothing else, they just sent one email to India. That shows the power of this very, very simple growth hack. When they sold to Microsoft, 1.5 years later, they had 10 million users, which by itself is of course an incredibly incredible number. But if you consider that the internet at the time only had 70 million users, they had 15% of all internet users in the world. That's crazy. Obviously, I'm talking about growth hacking. This is an example of growth hacking, but and it's something that is done by a lot of different companies. But growth hacking is way, way more than this example. Obviously, this is something like making an extremely good omelette and calling it cooking. It's cooking, sure, but cooking is way, way more than that. So what is growth hacking really? Sean Ellis, this guy, he used to work at Dropbox and a lot of other companies where he was advocating growth. And back in 2010, he coined the term growth hacker. Until then, it wasn't really known. And he defines growth hacking as someone whose true north is growth. So anything for the growth. And that's a very, very broad mindset. So when you're talking about growth hackers, you see that they have a lot of knowledge, both in width, but also in depth. Anything from behavioral psychology to simple coding skills to stakeholder engagement, all these things. This is from a company called Growth Tribe in Amsterdam. They're Europe's first growth hacking academy, and they advocate the whole growth hacking movement a lot. And they actually have some very, very good information about growth hacking. So it's definitely something you want to check out. So why is growth hacking so important? And there's a difference between digital marketing and growth hacking, and that goes quite broad. First reason for that is that for a startup, when you're starting, the product by itself is not the real challenge. When you get the product, it is way, way more about distribution. Some people say you see up to 4,000 ads every day. I think that's a bit much. Probably if you look at the unique ads, it's way, way less. I think it's somewhere around 63 a day. But it's still a lot of ads that you see, and you don't really pay any attention to those anymore. So distribution, getting the word out, is hard. You need a growth hacker for that. Second, traditional marketing, when you talk about it, is extremely expensive. Don't get me started on billboards or radio ads. Those are, unpayable right now, especially for a startup, or TV ads. But also AdWords ads, Google's advertising system, is extremely expensive. If you start looking at cost per action, so the very end of the funnel where someone actually shows an interest in your product, it goes up to $90, $100, $110 per action. If you're selling flowers or anything, that's not going to cut it at all. Third reason is that there's a lot of new channels popping up, especially on the internet where you can get the word out. Keeping up with all these channels, trying to make them work, Udemy is working with that, one of the examples. It's quite time intensive. It's a near full-time job. And some people really love it, other people like to stick to the things that they know. Growth hackers, they like figuring out what works, what is new, and all those things. The fourth reason is very much the difference between digital marketing, or marketing in general, and growth hacking. Marketing focuses a lot on getting users in, acquisition of new users, but growth hacker looks at the entire funnel. You have what we call the AARRR, or R, pirate metrics, and the acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, and referral funnel. And along every single step in this process, you can work on growth. You can get more people in, you can get more people active, etc., etc. And so the growth hacker mentality goes into all of these aspects. Fifth, final reason is that when you're working with growth hacking, it's always about growth. No matter how many users you have, no matter how many paying customers you have, no matter how many referrals you get, it can always be better. So it's a continuous process where you want to keep on moving. So as I said earlier, I mean, growth hacking, you have these famous growth hack, Dropbox with their free space program for referrals, Hotmail with their PS I love you. But growth hacking is very much a process. And it's something that you can work on no matter where you are with your startup, whether you're just starting or whether you're already having a very active customer base. One of the pitfalls for a startup is what we call FOMO, the fear of missing out. And that's why processes are so important, to keep you level, to keep you with both feet on the ground, to make sure that you actually execute on what is most important at that day. This is...
Can we ask how many people have startup?
What do you mean? How many people? Oh, in the audience.
Kimlerin startup?
1, 2, 3. More people with a startup? Or ideas of a startup?
Thinking about starting one.
I think most people think about starting something for themselves. It's very much the trend, so that's good. So the growth hacking process, this is something that is done by 500 startups with this venture capital company. Some of the partners sat down and they came up with this graph that seems quite complicated. It's not. And I will dive a bit into how this would work for actually starting a startup. The first thing is always, do you have product market fit? And this is a very, very important aspect. If you don't have a product that actually fits with the market, you cannot start doing anything. And this is where a lot of companies go wrong. They start driving a lot of traffic, they start worrying about, hey, do I get enough referrals, I mean, whatever, it doesn't work. So if you don't have a product market fit, what is it that you're actually focusing on? The minimal viable product. You need to come up with something, whether it is a physical product, whether it's a website, whatever it is, you need a minimal viable product. When you have this minimal viable product, you need to go through the steps to make sure that it works on every level in the funnel. First step, can you drive traffic? Can you get people to actually go to your landing page very often if it's an online startup? Can you get the word out? Second, are your visitors converting? Are they actually signing up for your product? Are they actually buying? I mean, what is going on? If not, you need to iterate on that landing page. Second, can you retain those customers? If you have an online platform, for example, WordApp, when we get a freelance writer in, or when we get a company in that wants to use WordApp to produce content, very often they sign up, but they don't get started right away. So you're not actually retaining those guys. When you start sending them emails, they come back and they start doing stuff, then you're talking about retention of customers. When you fit all these three criteria, then you can start going into scaling up. You can talk more about actual growth. I'm not talking about driving traffic. What if you're not getting traffic to your site? And that's something I want to focus on next. One big question there is, and it's especially for startups, do you have time or do you have money? If you have money, you can start driving tracks to AdWords, I mean other paid channels, Facebook advertising, but most of us, we don't actually have a ton of money to spend. With time though, you can do a lot of things. It's not the most fun job, but it works. For example, email marketing, SEO, content marketing, partnerships. You can do a lot of stuff that works where you can get results, you can get the traffic to your site that you need, where you can actually start working on conversion and retention. So early stage growth is not about scaling. You cannot say, I'm wasting my time. If you're wasting your time, that's on you. You need to figure out, what do I need to do to move this forward? If that means having to send an email to prospective clients one by one, actually reaching out, even visiting them, that's okay, that's good. That's how you get traffic to your site. If that means doing user testing, something we're still doing with WordApp. We've been working on it for almost 2 years now. We have product market fit, but with the changes we're doing, we want to reiterate on this. So we're actually inviting prospective clients to come for a masterclass in our office, in on beer, LC by Kiki. They're coming to us and we're sitting down with them for half a day and figuring out, how does this work for you? We're finding a lot of improvements in that process where we can make the product better before we actually start working on conversion and retention and all these things. So early stage is not about scaling. When you see startup pitches, people of course want to see hockey stick growth. Okay, it's going slow in the beginning, but then it starts taking off. In reality, that doesn't work. In reality, it's way more ups and downs. It's figuring out what works, reiterating all these things. When you have product market fit though, then you can start playing what I call the percentage game. And before you really play the percentage game, you need to figure out, what are my metrics currently? So again, the pirate metrics that come back. What is my acquisition rate? How many of those people actually convert? How many of those people do I keep? How many of those people bring in referrals? How many of those people actually bring in money? Once you figure that out, you can start figuring out, where can I add more value? That's the percentage game. Looks complicated, it's not. It's just a lot of different things that you can do. You have to figure out for yourself what works best here. And if you're figuring out what works best, you, for yourself, but also for your team, first need to figure out, what is the only thing that matters, the OTM metric. When you figure out the OMTM metric, the only thing that matters, you can focus your entire team's efforts, but also your own efforts, on what works. I get bored extremely easy. So for me, this is a lifesaver. I need this to help myself focus on what this is actually that I need to do today, tomorrow, and the week after. Important here is that this is not revenue, for example. Can be, when it's really necessary, but it changes over time. So the only thing that matters changes. When you get into that process of where can I add most value, I always use the gross method, which is a mindset really, and it's a process of coming up with new ideas very, very fast. So what we do at WordApp is we sit down and we say, guys, what are the ideas that we can do? Right now for us it's self-ordering clients. What are the ideas? What can we do to actually make this better? We come up with a bunch of ideas and we sit down and say, okay, what's here, if we compare these ideas together, I mean, what are the ones that work? Where do we believe in most? But also, what is the most impact on the business? How difficult is it to do? And we start ranking all these different ideas that we have. Can be something very, very trivial, putting up an AdWords ad. Can be something way more complicated, but because you're using a good ranking system, you can figure out what is the one that we need to focus on. Then you need to figure out what's the experiment here. What is it that we're actually trying to achieve, and how are we going to measure if we achieve this or not? So experiments are very important there. It's something where I miss out on sometimes. I struggle sometimes with actually explaining what I think that we will achieve. You immediately see it back in the team as well, that things are not happening as it should have. People give resistance, they say, hey, are we really doing the right thing? Because we're actually not synced on whether this is important or not. When you have the experiments worked out, it's just about execution. It's not about coming up with more ideas, it's not about figuring out, is this really the best thing or not? Just execute. Most of the ideas, pretty much all the ideas that I heard in the last 3 years, are things that we can do in less than a week. So an explainer video We have a video on WordApp, how WordApp works. We did it in less than a day. If you would go to an external consultant for something like this, not only do you pay about $7,000 to get a video, it also takes about 40 days to get the video. I don't want to spend that time, I don't want to spend that money, I just first want to see if it works or not. I think our video is pretty okay. It got almost 10,000 views in the last 6 months. But if I would have spent $7,000 on that, that's a lot of money per view. Doesn't really make sense. I can better spend that money on another place. And then it's about studying the data. I mean, did the experiment we did give the results that we expected it to give? Very often it's no. Sometimes it's yes. If it's yes, do more of it. And come up with new experiments where you can figure out, hey, can we do more? This is the mindset, this is the method that we use at WordApp to figure out what do we spend our time on and how do we spend our time. And something that I repeat to startups always is, guys, less hacking, more execution. Focus on the execution part on it. You can talk about things for hours, days, weeks, but you could also just do it. And then you know what happens, you can see the results, you can see what actually happens. That's about growth hacking, that's about early stage startups, that's about growth. The reason me, but also the rest of our team, where I've already mentioned it, Jem, Wolfgang, Matilda today as well, we do these presentations, is very much because we want to build a bit of an ecosystem here in Istanbul. We think that helping each other, helping startups is extremely important. For that reason, if you have anything that you think I can help with, please add me on LinkedIn and let's take it from there. We have sprint reviews, what we call with our development team, every 2 weeks. We very often invite a couple of people over to the office where they give a short presentation about what they're working on, just to get some input and share some ideas. So you're very, very welcome to pitch your idea there as well. Just reach out to me. That's it.
Any questions? Any questions? No questions. So, let me ask you something about the business. You are coming from northern part.
Yes.
So it's a different, because I work in a Swedish company, EF, and that's countries are much more different because the education system is better and everything is better. So how did you adapt? I mean, how many years are you in Turkey?
I've been in Turkey for about 6 years.
6 years. So you are from us. Okay, let's go to Turkey.
No, I actually studied in South Korea for almost a year. Came back to the Netherlands and my professor said, hey, do you want to go to Izmir? And I said,
Izmir.
Izmir. I was like, I have no idea what that is or where that is or who is there. I was like, no. And that evening we were out with a couple of friends. We checked Wikipedia, 362 days or something. It's like, okay, I can go to Izmir, no problem. And I stayed ever since. So that's the story there.
You almost became a Turkish.
A bit, yeah, except the language, really.
So, what were you expecting before, and now how is life, I mean, in Turkey? When you compare, I mean, do you think that you can go back to your country and have the same standards? I mean, because, you know, I mean, we have good things, bad things, but when I compare with other countries, we are very flexible, much flexible.
Yes,
very good.
Yes, sometimes good, sometimes not good. I think one of the strong things about Turkey is people want to be very engaged, they want to do a lot of stuff. The problem is people sometimes get sidetracked a lot and start thinking a lot about how should we do this, how can we make quick money, how all those things. And that's why I think, especially in the startup scene, it's so extremely important to say, guys, you cannot hack some of the stuff, you just have to do it. Just do it, and then you will see the results and figure out if it's actually the right thing or not.
We all want to be rich, Mr. Özas, at the end of 80s.
Yes, I have a question. Let's say we have a startup company, but until when we can call a company a startup company? I mean, is there a deadline or the growth?
No, I don't think there's any deadline whatsoever. I mean, a startup is very much a mentality thing.
Yeah.
What I started playing with a lot right now with WordApp is the difference between a startup and a scale-up. Scale up where you actually know what works, you know what you're doing, it's just about doing more of it. So I think when you get at that point, then you're not a startup anymore, you're a scale up, which is a very similar mentality. but it's about growing faster. Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions? Yes?
Can you compare the traditional marketing and digital marketing as essentially?
The difference between marketing and digital marketing?
Yes.
Marketing and digital marketing are very similar. They both focus on acquisition, getting new customers in, getting the brand out. Growth hacking though is that, but it's way more down the funnel as well. So it's about converting the customers, retaining the customers, getting referrals from the customers, and actually making money on the customers.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
So far, have you come across with any interesting ideas since you came to Turkey?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah, I think in Turkey especially, especially online in Turkey, there's a lot of movements. There's a lot of room for improvement. A lot of room to come up with new ideas and to actually execute on those. The difficult thing is, if you look at abroad and you see an idea work there, it's not magic. It's hard work, it's sweat and tears, and that applies in Turkey as well. If you start an idea like that, you have to be prepared for the consequences. And I think there's a lot of room in the Turkish market to do very, very good things. Yep.
So we can create a world brand from our
Definitely, definitely, yes.
So tonight, let's promise for that.
I think it's good, yes.
I think the problem is, I mean, the startup business, I mean, it's very new. I mean, maybe 4 years, 5 years, and there is no big companies that are supporting. Now, I mean, banks started, some other companies, but it will take time, I guess, because especially in US and UK, I mean, many people are in the startup business, and they can easily go out from their comfort zone, from and open their own business. And unfortunately, as we have lots of tax issues in Turkey. Of course, in every country there are tax, but in Turkey it's a lot, and people are complaining a lot. So, and the startup, how do you say, infrastructure is not 100% ready. So it takes time. People are getting, because for example, 10 years ago, I mean, if we say to our mom or daddy, okay, I will open my own business, I will be a YouTuber, I have a, maybe yes. You saw these guys, I mean, there are lots of brilliant guys there, and most of them have a tech startup, but I mean, you know, I mean, our parents don't understand because they are coming from the, you know, I mean, comfort zone, and I mean, you know, I mean, they are old school guys. Even I mean, I'm 42 years old. And I changed, but I mean, I can understand. I mean, they say, okay, go to a job, get your salary at each month, every month, SGK olsun, sigorta insurance. These are important, and they don't want to go out of the comfort zone. And it is growing. I think it will be better and better.
I think so too. I think one of the very important things is, and that's, I mean, I'm from the Netherlands, which is a very, very small country. Same for Sweden. I mean, if you start a company in the Netherlands, online company, you would never ever make a website in one language. You would never just make a Dutch website. In Turkey, a lot of the websites I see are just in Turkish. I mean, you're limiting yourself a lot with that. So I think step one is think global from the get-go and start working from there on.
It's a good point, because there was a discussion 6 months ago in I don't remember the place, and people, the same thing that it has been discussed. I mean, you are looking for the best. I mean, you would like to be the best brands in Turkey, but you don't play for the. I mean, for being a global. I mean, so it is very important. And you are right. I mean, you opened our web pages in Turkish.
Yes.
But we say that we are European, but we don't have our web pages in English. Anyway, I think it will be better and better by the help of these kind of seminars, these kind of incubation centers, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And for your know-how, experience, sharing with us. And now it is Matilda's turn. Thank you.
Hi guys. Oh, you're quite many people. Like when I was sitting with my back towards you, I didn't see that you were so many. 32 people. Wow. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Matilda Saf. It's not Saf. like in Turkish, even if like people are making jokes to me about being like innocent. I am pretty innocent.
But not so.
And I'm working at wordup.com since September. I am originally from Sweden, from Stockholm. Maybe you know about it. And I moved here to Istanbul. I know that you're going to ask anyway, so that's why I'm telling you. I moved to Istanbul 2015 because I was studying HR at Stockholm University, and I had an exchange semester, and I decided to go to Boğaziçi University. So that's where I met a guy, Turkish guy. The guy's so dangerous. And I'm still here. So that's pretty much my story. And I was lucky enough to find a company here that is Turkish-Swedish. I mean, incredible, because all other Swedish people are running away from the coop and everything. And I'm like, hi guys, nice to meet you. So, what am I doing at WordUp? I am the head of crowd. What is the crowd? So, yeah, this is the crowd. So, Jorn already told you a little bit about it. Maybe you have heard from previous talks here. WordUp is an online platform for creating content. And you could either use your own team for creating this content, text for websites, or you can use our crowd. So our crowd are freelancers that are working from all over the world, writing texts in a lot of different languages. So you can see, so we're Swedish, Turkish. Where do we have most people? Here, Sweden, and Istanbul, I guess. Or is it Sweden, please?
Number 2. Turkey is number 2.
Yeah, well done. So our people are from all these countries, but also traveling, which is amazing. So every day at work, I get like photos of people sitting by the beach, sipping on a drink, writing text for websites. So that's very nice. And obviously, our crowd is very diverse, because they're from all over the continent, all over the world. They live all over the world. They have a lot of different experiences. The only thing we want them to have is language assets. We want them to be able to know one language and write for us. Most people have that. Like you can be, you don't need a very advanced education. You don't need to have a specific background, or you don't need to have a physical ability or a special skin color or gender or sexuality. We don't care. As long as you can provide what we need, that's good, and you're able to work for us online. So that is one of the reasons I love working for WordUp.com, because I have this passion about making people able to do what they want to and not being discriminated because of reasons that are not, we don't even care about, that is not even necessary to think about. So today I'm going to talk about why representation is essential to startups. It's a little bit of a long title, I agree with you, right? It's a little bit too long. I know that not all of you are working in startups or have their startups, but maybe you have an interest for it. I'm going to make the presentation a little bit more wide so you all can feel included. I'm going to answer 3 questions. What is representation? Why is representation essential? And how can we improve representation? So, what is representation? It's difficult. So this is the definitions that I found. Like, I was doing some Googling, like I have something in my mind what it means and what it means in Swedish. This is the definition I found online. To deal with and present gender, age, ethnicity, nationality, I guess, a regional identity. This one definition, I think that you can put a lot of more meaning into this. Another word that is usually used in this kind of context is diversity. And the definition of that is different types of people being included in something. Yeah, okay, that's kind of general, but I want to show you this word because I think that this is more common. People know about diversity. They don't know about representation. I prefer the word representation because diversity actually comes from different, the word different. And we are all different, I guess. But why should the only girl in the room should be different and not like just one of us. Like that's why I prefer representation. In Swedish we have a word mångfald, and it means like multiplicity. Yeah, multiplicity. Is that an English word?
Yes,
sure. Yeah.
It just became.
And I like that because it's more including. Okay. So, how can you use representation? Like how can you apply, and what things can you apply representation? I'm going to focus on a couple of things tonight, but you can apply it to pretty much everything. So the things that I'll focus on tonight is recruiting, marketing, user friendliness, and business development. How do you apply representation to recruiting? Well, by recruiting people with different kind of attributes. How do you apply representation to marketing? Attractive not only a specific group of people, but a wide range of different people. User friendliness, usability, accessibility. It can be either, like if you're working on an app, it can be something technical, but it can also be how to get into K-Works. Well, if you're in a wheelchair, it could be pretty difficult to get up the stairs and stuff, but there's an elevator here, so that's great. That is something like a user friendliness, funny to me. And business development. By planning for differences, planning for individuals and not only for what you have right now. Being open-minded, pretty much. Okay, so to our next question. Why is representation essential? And I could add like 1,000 more points here. I'm going to mention the ones that I find important tonight to bring up and I feel like you can relate to. One that is not written here, that was on purpose, is the moral reason. We should always be including to people. We shouldn't judge people for reasons that are not necessary for us. But I'm not even going to talk about it because something that I've learned from working in human resources is that if you cannot prove that it's going to make the business more successful, no one is going to listen to you. So this is a tool for you to actually make the business people do what they want. So please remember, like, okay, this is a moral right according to me. You don't have to agree with me. Let's just focus on why it is essential for growing a successful startup. Okay, so I don't think it's even necessary to say, like, if you are a group of people who has different kind of backgrounds, there's going to be more knowledge and experience in the same room. We have this saying in Swedish, 1 + 1 is 3. Do you have that in Turkey?
No.
Yeah? No? Okay.
No.
So it's called synergy.
Yes, so because 2 people can make 3 people's job, probably, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I have experience from my life, I have knowledge that I have accumulated during my life. You have another experience. When you put it together, it's not going to be 2 because we can complement each other and we can grow something even bigger.
Yeah.
So that's why representation is giving us more knowledge and experience. And even like triple that. Okay, what else? Why is it important? So studies show that working in a diverse group actually boosts creativity. Because, okay, imagine that you're sitting with your best friend and you're talking about the weather. But you're talking about the weather. So you're probably going to say the same thing because you are close friends. You probably have a similar background. You know what the other person thinks, so you just talk, and you don't really have to think about it. You don't have to express yourself in a complicated way because you know that your best friend is going to understand you. But if you're sitting next to a person who's, like when I'm working with my Turkish colleagues, I know that I have to express myself a lot more detailed I need to be open-minded for what that person has to say. And that is going to make me more creative. This is what study shows. And I think it makes sense. Can you relate to that? Cool. Actually, studies also shows that it makes us work harder. Just because of this. Because you get this expectation on yourself that you have to work harder, being with someone that you're not like twins. And that makes you work harder. So it's actually not, that it's not necessary for you to put more effort, but because you expect yourself to put a lot more effort, and working with people that are different than you makes you work harder. So you think you have to. So it makes you tired, it does make you a little bit tired. And it's good you sleep well. And several studies have shown that it gives you better financial growth. Okay, let me remember this. The companies in Silicon Valley, like the top 10 companies of Silicon Valley, when it comes to diversity, they had 35% higher chance to have a higher financial growth. So it shows that it's not only about being morally correct or following your beliefs, but it shows in the bank account. If you have a startup that is diverse and you are trying to reach out to a more diverse group of people, it's more likely that you're going to attract a wider range of customers. Of course. Because if I am making a product, it's more likely to be interesting for another Swedish woman. But if we're a team with different kind of people, it's more likely that it's attractive to a larger crowd and more potential customers. Do you know what employer branding is? So it's an HR expression for pretty much how to market yourself.
Your employees, yeah.
Sorry?
Your employees.
Yeah.
You're marketing your employees.
Exactly. So it's you're kind of your employees are marketing you, and it's also about like showing the company in a positive light, so that you'll be more attractive in the job market. And if you are working with a diverse marketing and a crowd of people that are very diverse, of course there are other people that can relate to these people, will be more attracted to work there. So if you are marketing yourself with only white old men, sorry, but it doesn't really make me want to go to that office. Like, sorry, but no. But if there's a wider range of people, or maybe someone that looks like me, someone that looks like you and you and you, yeah, that could be nice. People like that. That's not the reason that you should work with representation. So this is an example of, this is from Snapchat. And this is a very good example of, it's not a startup anymore, but an application that has obviously not included a diverse tester. So this is a filter, and this is not only for these two filters, but you know how you turn camera and you take a selfie, and it kind of makes you look a little bit different? Well, it makes a black girl white.
Like Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Do you think that people of color are going to be interested in using this app? Probably not. It's actually pretty racist. And this is, when you're working in a team that are white, this is normally what comes out. And it's kind of problematic, because people are not going to be interested in using this app. We know how it's going for Snapchat right now, so I'm not sure it's directly related to this, but this is why it's very important to always test in different kind of people to make sure that it's attractive to a wide range of people. Okay, so let's go like section to section, like how can you work with representation? How can we improve it? So first, if you focus on recruiting, I used to work at Adecco. Do you know about the? Yeah, exactly. So they're recruiting. They're also working with consultants. And I was working with them in Sweden, and this was I learned about this theory called competence-based recruiting when I was studying at Stockholm University. But this was the first time I actually got to use it, and I think it's amazing. And I'm telling everyone that's working with recruiting, you have to use this. So what is it? So competence-based recruiting is pretty much you're looking for a new employee. Let's say that you're looking for a developer. What you do is that you write down the different competences that this person should have. It could, for example, be knowledge-based stuff, like this person has to know Python or any other programming language. They need to speak English. These kind of things that are very easy to just tick off from the CV. You're also adding experience. Maybe you want this person to have at least 5 years of experience. It's pretty common. We see this in the job ads. And the point is to be very, very detailed. What are we expecting? What kind of competences are we looking for? The third thing that we're looking for is the attributes of that person, which is very important. And most of the time, I would say like 90% of all recruiting done, not only in Turkey, but in Sweden as well, you trust your gut feeling. You're like, yeah, I like this person, seems like a nice guy, seems like a nice girl. Is that really, like, really? It's 2018, right? Is that what we're going to look for? I mean, when it comes to everything else, we're looking for data for things, but here, all of a sudden, we're looking for gut feeling. So the competence-based recruiting is pretty much defining the attributes that you want for this person, and it can be like, okay, this person is a developer, so it needs to be able to cooperate with the other people, collaborate with the other team members. So they need to be good at communicating. What does that mean? What is good at communicating? To be able to express yourself. How do you test that? How do you ask that in an interview? Maybe by asking something and telling them, please explain yourself and explain your thought process, because they're able to express their thought process in a job interview. They will also be able to do it at the office. And also, there can be other attributes. If you're looking for a salesperson, that person should be able to do a presentation maybe. I see a lot of companies asking developers and like assistants to do presentations. Why are they supposed to know how to do presentations? They're never going to do it in the work life, so why do you have to do it by then? Anyways, so you write down different competences that you're looking for. They're different for every kind of new employee that you want to hire. And then you tick them off. So you make like a point system. Okay, this person knows English, that's good. This person knows how to communicate according to my belief, how I define communication, and so on. So then you have a point system. You compare the different candidates to each other, and in that way you will not be biased. You will always be biased a little bit in the end because we're human beings, that's how we work, but this is going to lower the risk a lot. And we're more likely to hire the person because they're good at their job, and not because they have a specific skin color, or they are male, or they are pretty, or something like that. Okay. How else can you work with recruiting? This is pretty common right now, the anonymous kind of recruiting. I'm sure you have a company in Turkey. Do you know?
Is doing that?
Yeah, I've heard about the company.
No names, no genders.
Exactly. So you pretty much just put all your data in, like the education you have, the previous experience and stuff, but it doesn't tell your age, it doesn't tell your gender or where you're from, or your name. This can also be a way for you to recruit in an equal way. It doesn't have to be, I would say I would always recommend the top one, because this can be a little bit tricky. Okay. Another way to make sure that you find a person who's good at the job and not just gives me a good gut feeling is to do case study. We are very lucky in WordUp that we have already a platform that we can ask people to write things. So we're always using that in WordUp when we're looking for new people. And in that way we know that they can actually deliver and we're trying out their capabilities instead of their personality. If you want to have a company or a startup that is diverse, you need to work on the work culture, you need to work on the business culture. Because this is essential. I mean, we all know we spend 40 hours every week at the office, and if we don't feel like we fit in, if we are the one who's different, or there are things going on in the office that you cannot really relate to, you're not going to enjoy that time. So that is also a good way of actually making the workplace more attractive for different kind of individuals. The whole thing of grabbing a beer after office with your colleagues might not always be the best idea, because there's always one person there who's a parent who needs to go pick up their daughter, or they have other things that they need to do. So that stops you from being part of the decision making and so on. Or like, I don't think I have to say that now, but if I was giving this presentation in Sweden, I would say, don't throw a party during Ramadan. Don't do that, because then you're, even if you don't have any openly Muslim people working at the office, you never know. And also people that are seeing your photos on Instagram are going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe that company doesn't fit for me. Like, I'm a Muslim and they're partying and drinking shots during Ramadan, so. Yeah. And also, when you're trying to find new people, when you want to hire people and you're thinking like, okay, it would be nice to have a mix of people, not just the same, exactly like me. You have to reach out and try hard. You can't just put the job at exactly the same place as you did the same last time, because you're going to get the same results. You're going to get exactly the same kind of applicants. So always reaching out. And a Swedish company, actually it's an association. It's called the Rättviseförmedlingen. You don't have to try to say it, it's kind of difficult. So this was founded by a girl. She's originally from Iraq. She is living in Sweden, and she was at one of the most common clubs in Sweden. And she realized every night there was a DJ, she was dancing, but every night there were guys. There were always guys up there in the DJ booth, and she was like, why are we always like guys? And you know, like, I kind of like listen to Beyonce, but they're playing Jay-Z, and I'm like, come on, let's play some Beyonce. And she went up to the owner of the club and she said, why are there no guys? And he said, because there are no male DJs. She got really angry. She posted on Twitter, but yeah, guys, like, I need you to create a list for me with female DJs in Stockholm, because these guys say that there are no female DJs in Stockholm. And next day when she woke up, she didn't remember that. She tweeted that thing. And she had like 200 responses of people that recommended or were themselves female DJs. So that's when she started this. This is pretty much like a list system. So they're asking on social media for people that are out of the norm in that working field. So for example, HR that I'm doing, they're asking for people that are not white women. Or for developers, they're asking for women. And for people being political experts sitting in TV, they're asking for people that are younger than like 60. So this is really huge now in Sweden. I'm hoping that someone will take this idea now and make it work here. And the reason I'm telling you about it is because there are always people. You just have to look a little bit. Like you have to look under the rocks. You have to call people. You have to say like, hey, like you should really come and do this because you're great at this. Okay, marketing. When it comes to representation in marketing, there are several things you can do. When we talk about representation in marketing, we're mainly focusing first thoughts that people usually have is like the photos of people. Like if there's a woman in an ad, you're like, okay, well that's good because there's a woman, so we're reaching out to women. It's not that simple, really, because there's, for me, for example, a blonde girl in a photo doesn't mean that I can relate to her. Maybe I relate more to a cartoon or, I don't know, a puppy or something. So we are always doing this A/B testing for ads and stuff. Why are we not doing it for the images? No one ever talks about it. You take the same image, but you change the text, but you change the layout, but the image is always the same. You have to ask it ourselves.
May I add something about images?
Huh?
When we were working at EF,
yeah?
you know, EF is a English first, educational. We were sending thousands of people from Turkey to US, UK, and lots of countries. And EF is still the same. I mean, it's one of the biggest mailing company. I mean, we were getting inquiries from Google. And first thing that EF does, not only Turkey, all offices, sending brochure. And you know, as EF is a Swedish company, they were putting pretty aliases from Sweden, blonde aliases. And what we were doing, after sending the brochure, we were giving a call 10 days later. Hey, Mr. Ahmed, this is Murat from EF. Did you get our brochure? And we are waiting an answer, yes, and then we will ask which destination are you going to go and this and that. And actually sometimes we saw that 75% of the people are not getting the brochure, not because of the Aras cargo or Turkish cargo. The problem was that the Turkish guys, I mean, things that I don't know what, when they see ladies on the front page of the brochure, they were taking out from the people's post office. So images are important, but sometimes I mean, you get the attraction, but sometimes I mean you don't get the result. So what we did is, after that experience, we put in there in the black cover, so nobody will see any picture. So and then we increased it, and we did A/B actually, not in the image, but in the coverage of the brochure. So it came to from 50% to 90%. Whenever we give a call, they were getting the brochure because no neighbor will take the brochure.
That's very interesting. And it's actually a very good example of when you could have thought, okay, so this is apparently very interesting for one crowd, but is it interesting for the crowd that we're trying to reach? Maybe not. Like maybe if you would have put like, I don't know, puppies. that's my standard answer. No, but yeah, that's. You always have to try like the images as well. It's super important, and we forget about it, and only because I mean you have to be attractive to the kind of audience that you're reaching out to, and do some testing. Okay, so also when it comes to marketing and representation, think about readability, because if you're going to, if you have reaching out to clients that are about, I don't know, 40, it's important that the text is large enough and stuff. Like you don't think about that, but it's, if you want to reach everyone, then that's very important. So use an example. And when we talk about this with marketing people, they sometimes go like, but it doesn't work for me, I cannot be too wide, and I cannot have too wide range because I'm targeting a specific audience, which is fine. Like you can do that, but just say it out to yourself. Like define that audience, figure out what do they want, what attracts them, and go for it. But don't be like, okay, we are trying to attract single moms in Izmir, and then you have like a picture in mind of what do they like, because these are all prejudices, and you don't know if it's correct. It might be correct, but always do your research and don't assume anything, because then you're not very likely to get the audience that you're looking for. Okay, so when it comes to user friendliness, now I don't know how many like startups are here. Maybe it's not too interesting, but when it comes to testing, I think it's very common that the testing people are the same kind of people that does the programming. which is problematic because they have exactly the same view most of the time. Just have the same background, the same kind of interest case. They have the same kind of glasses on them when they look at an app or a website or whatever. So always try to reach out beyond your kind of friend circle to see what do people like apart from my small team. Only, like, they don't have to know programming language most of the time. Like, they can do it with the basic knowledge that they have, and actually your users are not going to have no programming anyway, probably. So this is an easy way for you to test if it's actually going to talk to a wider audience, if it's going to be attractive to a diverse crowd. And always be open to feedback. So me and Joran talked a little bit about this today during breakfast, about this presentation, and we discussed how, like, the feedback loop is so different for doing apps like Word App compared to, for example, media. So if you're creating something, you want to be diverse, let's say. You create a movie, you get the feedback as soon as the people go to the movie theater. They're going to tweet to you, they're going to write articles about it, and you're going to hear exactly what they think and how you can improve your diversity in that movie. Same goes for all kind of media that's just out there. But for apps and stuff like this and your business idea, people are not going to come to you and give you feedback. You have to ask for it, you have to reach out. I mean, if you don't like the idea, if you're not going to be a customer, you're not going to tell them why not. You have to ask them. You're just going to walk away and you're going to find another company. So always be very, like, sensitive to this kind of feedback. When you get something, when someone's mentioning something, dig into it. You have to do that to find out how can we attract a wider range of people. I know that you cannot see this, right? I was assuming that you can see it, but this is when it comes to user friendliness. This is, it says, is your product desirable? So this is if you want to create a female product, and it's kind of a joke. So it's pretty much saying, this is something suited to a physical characteristics that women have that men don't. Yes or no? No. Is it less complex than similar existing products? No. Is it prettier or more attractive than existing products? No. Okay, good. Congratulations, you made a product that is not sexist. Because we see this all the time, like, I'm going to buy a razor blade in the store, and my boyfriend is going to buy one at the same time, and mine is like fluffy. Why is it fluffy? Why is it pink? But his is like super mega ultra super car, well, not a car, but like, you know, is this like a random guy sitting in designing this and thinking, oh, this is probably what women want? Or have they actually asked the audience? Okay. How can we improve representation when it comes to business development? First of all, I want to say that it's so important to work on it from the beginning, because as soon as you start your startup or create your own business, you're creating the work culture. So it's super difficult to change it. That's like the 101 human resources. Once you have a business culture, it's so difficult to change it. So always start from the beginning with working on, like, representation, how you reach out to your potential customers, how you talk to new employees, how you talk to investors, because this is a stamp that's going to be with you for all the time. Also, always consider how the group of people is going to be in the future. So let's say that you're like two friends and you start a startup. You might not be thinking about the elevator thing, but the next month you might have an amazing person who wants to work for you that is in a wheelchair. Are you going to change the office? Like this kind of stuff, you know, it's super important. We don't think about it. There's just one male bathroom. Like, maybe it's not very good if you want to have other people working there in the future. Be aware of this from the beginning, and you're going to see that not only is going to be a nicer experience for the new people coming to the office, but the customers too, by the way, but it's also going to be more attractive for new people finding you, seeing you on social media and stuff like that. Always be flexible, open-minded. If a person doesn't fit into the structure right now because of that person's attributes, think about, do we have to do it like this, or can we be a little bit more flexible and do it in a different way? I already mentioned business culture, but it's very important, and it's going to stay with the company forever. So be aware of the business culture that you create, and try not to do the beer thing too often, and try to consider that you have to adjust to the individuals that are working for you, or potentially working for you. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples, because you know I'm preaching over here, and of course I am not like that good myself, and none of us are perfect. So I want to give you an example that we also talked about this morning from Copy Panthers. I don't think you know about Copy Panthers. So Copy Panthers was kind of the beginning of WordUp. So it was a translation agency. It started like 5 years ago or something. Yeah. And we had these amazing freelancers, and they got a lot of responsibility. So they wanted to kind of put them aside from the rest of the freelancers and make them like the special team. And they decided that they're going to call them pack leaders. Really good, right? Pack leaders. And everyone was super excited about it, and like, yeah, let's print this everywhere and stuff like that. And then they got an angry email from a freelancer saying, what are you talking about? Panthers do not travel in pack. And no one had thought about this because they didn't have that experience, they didn't have that knowledge. And it's fine, I mean, maybe no one cares anyway, but this is a good example, I think, of when you should be like sensitive for picking up feedback, because we don't know everything ourselves. I think another example was like when I was fixing the office a while ago, I was cleaning up the kitchen, like sorting out where should things be. I put the cups, you know, here, and then next morning it's like, Matilda! And I come out to the kitchen, and Elifa, our colleague, is like standing like this, and she cannot reach them because she's too short, and I mean, it's too short, or I'm too tall, I don't know. And it's just like, you know, I didn't think about it by then, but you always have to keep this like diversity glasses on yourself to be aware of other people's situation, not only your own. Another example was we put, so we have a cleaning lady, and we put a note, like there was an electrical input for the TV, and that cleaning lady was always pulling it out because she had to put the vacuum cleaner in. So we read a note, right? Don't pull out the plug. Don't pull out the plug. She kept doing it every day when we come to the office. It's pulled out. And we're like, why is it not? Because she doesn't know English. Obviously. If we would have written it in Turkish, she would have not pulled it out. And it's this kind of simple stuff. You have to be aware that not everyone has the same knowledge as you do. So that's all for me right now. Do you have any questions?
No questions. You understood very well. You are good, great.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
So, where are you on positive discrimination?
Okay, so positive discrimination is pretty much when you say that in the police force we want there to be 30% women instead of 15% that is right now, so let's make the entrance rules a little bit lower, just so you know what it is. I think in some cases it's absolutely necessary, but most of the time, especially when it comes to private companies, it's a little bit problematic, because once you get in as that woman, for example, in the police force, or once you come in with a different ethnicity, because of this positive discrimination, you're going to get that stamp on your head for the rest of the time. So you're going to be, oh, you're the woman, that's what you're here for, you're not good enough for us. And you also have to take kind of that, you have to speak for all the women. because you were taking notes. On the other hand, when it comes to boards for big companies, I am all for it if it's a big company, because I believe that if there's a huge company, like Ericsson, for example, there are definitely enough competent people in all these minority groups. So you can, without problem, fill a whole board with it, without having to compromise on competence and politics.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yes?
According to you, what are essential rules of effective marketing?
Sorry?
Shortly.
The
Essential rules of marketing.
Oh, you know what? I am not like, I don't have an education in marketing. I have been working with human resources, and I've been working with business development. So marketing is not my field. So I'm sure that someone else in here can answer that question better than me, actually. Any other questions? Yeah?
To be able to succeed as a startup, you need luck, right?
Yes.
You need money, and you need people. What else do you need?
I mean, I think I don't know if I agree that much about money and people part. I think that you need to have a great idea, and I think you need to work very hard. Like Imran was talking about it earlier, it's all about execution. And it's all about the attitude of like working hard, it doesn't work out, try a new way. Listen to analyze the data that you get, the results that you get from doing something, and then if it doesn't work out, do something different. So I don't think that you really need that much investment or that much people to succeed. I think it's more about attitude and having a good idea.
Do you mean you can do everything yourself?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it depends on what it is. You can, if you need a programmer, you can always outsource it, and you don't have to. Of course, you cannot do any business idea yourself, but if you come up with something, I am assuming that you have some knowledge in it, so you can work on it yourself.
I can weigh in on that a little bit. There's this study which is actually really cool. It's a bit morbid, but so the story is that you're standing just away from a railway crossing where there's a bunch of people stuck, and you're with this other guy, and you can push him in front of the train would stop, and all those people would survive. And when you ask people in their native language, people tend to take the emotional decision to not push this person in front of the train. However, if you ask them in a foreign language that they understand, for me being English, for example, people way more tend to take the rational decision of sacrificing one life to save multiple. And I think building a startup, not so much luck, not so much money, not so much people, but actual rational thinking. If you cannot develop yourself, you need to be rational enough to accept that fact and to look for a developer to do something. If something doesn't work, you need to be rational enough to say, hey, I need to try something else. And not have the emotional baggage and say, hey, I worked really hard on this, or I spent a lot of money on this, it has to work eventually. It doesn't work that way. And that's very much about representation as well. You need to have the rational insight and say, hey, is this person really better than the other? And if not, I mean, does this person actually have other characteristics that will help us in terms of diversity? So I think that's a very important thing for building a startup.
Maybe we can add some other points. For example, rather than people and money, for example, networking is very important. For example, we met with her 3 months ago, am I right, or 4 months ago, and now we are together. Because when I know that these two guys are on the stage, I said, who is going to be interested? Foreign people in Turkey. So I just sent a message, and then she made me connect to other expats. And the second thing is, for example, yesterday we were with Sefa Merve. You know sefamerve.com, and they just founded 6 years ago. And people think that as they are selling Islamic clothes, they are getting some funds from the government or whatever. They don't, I know these people, they don't get anything. And the guy was a professional. He was working in the TV industry. One day he stopped and he believed in the product. And then he started, he get some money from friends and that. Now they are earning 700 million Turkish lira. It's a huge money. And now they are exporting to 75 countries. Yesterday he told these numbers. That is huge. I mean, 6 years ago there was not a company like Sefa Merve. And now there's a huge company, and so maybe you should also see the potential. For example, yesterday there was a lady. She is doing something with. Of course, but I mean the luck is. I mean, for example, do you know how we met with these guys? I mean, they found me. Elif, a lady from their office, Elif, found me and she said, "Let's do something together." Now we are doing other things together with these guys, and Elif found me from LinkedIn. How? Because I'm doing these kind of seminars, and I'm not earning money, by the way, from these seminars. There are people that are asking, "Oh, you are earning millions of dollars." No, but I'm doing a networking. Now I met with you, and maybe 2 days later or 5 days later, you will say, "Hey, Mr. Murat, we have an event, and would you like to do it with us?" Or whatever. I mean, you know, this is a connection. And if I give my business card, you will see it writes "People Connector." People ask, "What's People Connector?" This is a people connection. We connect people. Sometimes we make boyfriend, girlfriend. I mean, I'm not a man, but I'm married, unfortunately. But yani herkese her türlü hizmet veriyoruz abi. Kız arkadaş, yani sevgi paylaşımı, bilgi paylaşımı, sharing information, sharing love, everything. So everything little into the middle.
It's very true, and I really think that, if we return to what we talked about before, what is good about being in Turkey compared to Europe and stuff, the way you know everyone. I mean, we're living in a huge city, and it's just like, merhaba, merhaba, and like, how do you know each other? Like, it's everyone you meet know each other. I don't know how that works, but in Sweden, if you see someone on the street,
yeah.
Because we don't want to talk to people, so that's something that you're doing very good.
You are kind of, it's not being an unfriend, they are shy people. I worked at EF 8 years, it's a Swedish company, and and I was single, and when I was going to Luzern, Switzerland, the headquarters, I got shocked because there were 90, and the education sector, 70% of the people were ladies, and everybody is blonde. And I'm from Ankara, by the way, I'm not coming from the mountains. And I said, "What's going on?" Okay, and I'm 25 years old, very young, but they're not talking. I said, "Why they don't talk?" I mean, they didn't like me, they didn't enjoy me. They're shy people. But when you get a good relationship, they're open to everyone. But in Turkey, we think that people are going Europe, US, UK, whatever. We think that everything is better and better. But this is I work in Imarsis. It's the Vienna company. I went different companies. When I was working at EF, we visited the other countries, EF locations. This is very easy here, the networking, the sharing. Because people there, after 6, 7 o'clock, they go to pub or they home or whatever. But we are really energetic. We love people. We love touching people, the Mediterranean people. So this is really nice. The friendship. We love. Even the WS6 TL. We. Life goes on. So we have advantages, and the costs are. When you compare with Europe, for example, very interesting. EF headquarters is printing lots of brochures, and we were sending the brochures. We were printing, and because the printer guys are not lazy, but they give 3 weeks time. But the things are very urgent, and they said sorry because they are talk. They are not hungry for money. 3 weeks later, and we were printing here. Alparslan var bizim burada matbaacı. Adam zengin oldu. İkinci şeyi aldı. Valla, we were printing thousands of brochures, and we were sending with DHL. Even we sent with DHL, it was cheaper, without stress. Adam dünyayı götürdü yani. 3 günde binlerce broşür bastık. Ya Cape Town'da bir şey var. Adamlar bastıramıyor İsviçre'de. Biz buradan bizim matbaa Alparslan, hadi abi bas şu. Bazen hatalı basar. Big Man'i mesela bir kere bastı, Big Man ters. Bu ne lan diyorum. Hatalı olmuş. But he was very flexible. He was doing the same thing again. Not like this. our printer guy. So esneyiz abi. Esneklik çok önemli. Bakma yani bazen kızıyoruz çok esneyiz falan diye ama ya bizde bir işler daha kolay. Diyelim bir çekiliş yapalım. We will give 3 books. So
Can I pull a card?
please. And then you will say the number.
Okay. I want to say the Turkish.
Aha.
4 0 9.
Ah, I don't.
Oh, no, we don't have one.
Kaybetmesen abi.
Okay, this is mine.
409 var mı abiler abla? Var.
Hey.
Evet. Siz en son geldiniz. Vallahi bravo. Bizi hatırlarsınız. Geçen gün bir kavga oldu burada. Aa işte benim numaram falan filan bilmem. Neyse verdik kızcağız hanımefendi. 3 ay sonra yine geldi buraya. Ne oldu? Okudunuz mu? Okumadım. Yani biz de öyle kontrol ediyoruz abi. Arıyorlar. Okudum mu? Okumadım mı? Yok mu? Abi dur size verelim bir tane. Bir tane versene.
389 oldu mu?
Bir tane verelim. Bir tane de buraya. Siz de mi almadınız?
Ben şey yaparım. İnternet.
Abi siz de ne yaptınız be? Oylamanın şeyi değişti bir anda. Yes.
381.
She speaks better ha? 381. Televizyon yarışması. Oo ne güzel. İkinci gelişinizde hemen kitabı aldınız. Bir daha gelmezlik yapmayın abi. Şey, iş dünyasında hikayenin gücü. Şu anda bestseller. And you, please. Şöyle sizi karıştıralım. Siz de şansınızı artıralım.
This is like a test, like a Turkish test.
I will feel, I will not even try.
It's girl type trying.
Well, like, I don't know 70, so 375.
75, 375. Bir de Enes'in şeyi vardı, 3 tane kursu vardı Enes Usta'nın. Bir tane siz çekin istiyorsanız. Kendiniz çekerseniz yan. Enes gitti, ben onu şey yapacağım şimdi.
382.
382. info@enesusta.com.tr'ye mail ediyorsun abi. Kurs veriyor sana. Bir de kitap yollayacak. Bir tane siz çekin efendim. Çekersiniz ne olur. 372. 372. Ben de şey oldum. Tamam. I will send an email. What is Turkish? But you will understand. You are info. I will give you the email, and then you will send an email to him. He will send the coupon, and you will enter Udemy, and you will learn Google AdWords. So you will people who want to shoot will find you. Fotoğraf çekimi, özel böyle evlilik fotoğrafı, evlenen var mı yakında? Çocuğu olan var mı? Hemen bakın burada güzel özel fotoğraf. Şirketlerin fotoğrafları, kurumsal fotoğraflar. Kaç?
390.
O benim.
info@enesusta.com.tr. Yes please.
No, I'm also doing business portrait.
Business, evet. Şirketlere de.
Be more interested in, I guess.
Do you have cards?
Sure.
Okay. If people are interested, may get cards. Sometimes people are asking, are you getting a commission? No, I mean, we're all friends. So. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. Çok teşekkür ederiz katıldığınız için. Pazartesi günü Levent Workington'da kitaplar veriyoruz yine. Aynı kitaplar ama alamayanlar. Kariyer sohbetleri var. Orada görüşürüz inşallah. Thank you. It was great.
Thanks for doing it.
I took lots of photos. I will send them.
And you've recorded it.
Record is here, but I will take the video. I think they upload it after
Görüşmek üzere. Tamam.
but I will send you the pure video. Maybe you can use it in your archives. Yeah. And then whatever you want, you can do.
Thank you very much for inviting
Yes,
us.
thank you. It's really good. I think it's really good.
Kategori şey önem veriyorlar. Emlak
For 2 years and then with roommates and then I moved out using my money.
ama aynı zamanda yazılım. Yabancı. Yazılım o yabancı.
I was.
Yeah, I heard you speak about photography. Oh, that's valuable. Yeah, it's very good. I thought I recognized you, and then I heard you speak, and I'm like, yes, I know you. Actually, let me give you my business card.
So, did you hear anything from
We were actually talking the other day about signing a photographer to take photos of it.
That's what I checked on your website. I checked your website and there is, you can see that like people were coming and then bringing their own
just write me a message again on LinkedIn or something, or connect anyways.
because that's why I love to work with is, you know, to really organize things that for the picture that will take, it will be exactly what you want. It should be a special picture of the company, of everybody. It's not just
No, I understand. It's more like individual. Because now it's like on our site, like so everyone has their own phone, so they're not matching. And I mean, of course, like they're personal, but if you could do it personal, but also in the same style, that would be nice.
Yes, that's exactly one of the first things I did. If I was on my phone, it was because I was on your website, looking at it, and I just love the idea. I mean, the whole, I had no idea that this would exist. It's very
I love the idea of it, and we have different passions. Like to me, it's about the freelancers, like to be able to work from all over the world and stuff. Like if you ever need extra cash, like just log in, create an account with Facebook, and super simple. The online businesses, there are customers. They are a lot of different kind of companies, but right now we're mainly getting e-commerce sites. So we're writing for them, like they're asking for product description, for example. They're asking for you to write a description about the share and that table and this carpet. So what you do is like you get rules. So it has to be a title, it has to include this kind of words, and then it should be a description with this kind of words, and it should be 200 words, for example. So, and you just write it, and all the rules are, it gives you all the instructions, and then you submit it. It goes to another freelancer who proofreads it, and then it goes to CopyScape to make sure there's unique content, so you don't copy it from the line, and then to the website.
And then there's the website, like
so actually they always read it. So one person from that company is always reading it before they publish it. So they have to approve it. If they don't like it, they send it back with feedback, and then the editor rewrites it according to these. And that happens like probably 20% of all the texts are actually sent back for editing. Back and they publish it. So we have this plugin that allows them to automatically publish it from WordApp up to their website. So it's very easy when you get used to it and you understand the concept.
That's just
Everyone has websites, I mean it's great because you might not be able to write in all languages, or you want to have blogs like every day on your site, but you don't have time to write blogs every day. So then you can ask the crowd to write a blog about, okay, this time I want you to write a blog about Paris, or this time I want you to write a blog about kittens, and then you know, it just goes up on the blog automatically.
So the important thing in this case is to convey the value to the restaurant.
Is to hire for the freelancers. Just about your own time. So like I have value, like when I'm taking pictures, editing pictures, but being my flag, I mean, I'm sorry, but I have extra value. So to invest from 274 a month, and then to get to half a day, like actually one full day, just not including my flag, that's the kind of investment that we can do. because we were speaking, of course, about hiring someone to do this or that. You can also do like look for things that
Definitely. And I think that's something like when it comes to like women not always like feeling okay with telling people about this or like what can I say? So more common for men to be like, oh, someone else is going to take care of it, more acceptable for them to do it, but it's and then we're supposed to do it, but to actually pay that amount of money, that is not too much, and getting that time for yourself and not having to think about not spending money, it's amazing.
And also thinking that actually one lady is not staying at home, but she's earning money.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Really is. We also have a cleaning lady, and she's doing this for like not for but you know she's earning some extra money for pocket money, so she can go shopping, like do some stuff for the kids. She gets to do much money. And of course, I wish that it would be an obvious option for everyone, but it's not like that.
It's okay.
Alles haben wir heute yeah, I'm trying to. But I don't know, there was a new thing coming there soon, right?
Social
I saw an event coming up and I remember reading about it. I thought that sounds interesting. I want to go.
And then nothing.
Yeah, that's so weird. What day is it? 29th. Okay, that's cool. I'm gonna be
Maybe you can share some ideas.
Japanji is like a group of Japanji. In volume is not what that means. Like how often is it? Like every single week? Once a month.
those kind of art conferences every month. But then they have like the night out, the those kind of things. I'm not really into it. The conferences are very interesting.
What do you think?
So it can be.
It was nice. Good?
Yeah, everyone
Happy you liked it.
and they also gave a free one.
Hold on. Originally, so
I can
I traveled around.
it's
My
nice.
parents always moved, so I lived in Germany for 5 years, Copenhagen, South Korea,
Yeah,
Turkey.
it's Japanji.
I've
Like
lived
this. It's Japanji,
Really?
as a